Chris, I'm a big fan of yours, if you haven't caught on. Okay. I
Very
love,
smoothly.
love what you're doing with building automation. It's where I started my career. And I don't believe that enough people know about it. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted you on Sparky Life, because this career path, this opportunity is just incredible. There is so much you can do with this, so many places to go, and
Yeah.
no one knows it exists. Not to mention,
Yeah.
we're just getting more and more. It's happening more and more. It's just elevating more and more. This isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I would like you to talk all about what the hell is building automation to begin with and how you can get involved in this type of career.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree with exactly what you're saying. It's such a booming industry that so few people. Well, I think more people are obviously getting to know about it now with like the hype around smart homes and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's a booming industry, loads of opportunity, and yeah, a big shortage of decent engineers. I hear it every place that I go, every place I've worked at, there's not enough engineers. And interestingly, I was speaking to a guy on Instagram the other day, and he said that he heard somewhere that the average age for a BMS engineer, so a building management system engineer, or I think in the States where you are, it's more BAS, so building automation system. Yeah, the average age of engineers in this space is like late 50s. So, it's just showing there's so much opportunity for new people to come in. The demand is growing, and it's why wouldn't you? It's such a brilliant industry that it's not just building automation. It obviously covers the commercial side. So like leisure centers, hotels, multi-dwelling units like apartment blocks and flats, um, malls, shopping centers, like every commercial building needs building management, whether that's managing like the HVAC, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning. That's typically what you'll have. Like every commercial building will at least have that. But then there's like security, access, lighting, blinds, like it just stacks and stacks and stacks. So you've got that on the commercial side. And then you've obviously got the smart home or home automation side as well, in terms of like the building automation umbrella. Um, and I think there's like it's quite important to distinguish between like the smart home, sort of buzzword smart home, which has become a big thing in the last sort of 5 years, and home automation. There's definitely a difference there, which I think people need to know. So home automation is much more in line with like the building management side of things, like we talked about in the commercial space. Smart home, I would class, and this is only my opinion, so people might disagree with me, but like the smart home stuff, I would say is more like the Internet of Things, like your consumer products, like your Ring doorbell, your Hive thermostat, your Philips Hue. They're kind of off the shelf, one-off solutions. And yes, I know they have like ecosystems that you can bring in together, and you can make them communicate between themselves, but they're consumer grade stuff that go out of date quite quickly, and they're not complete holistic solutions. So I think that's important. Also, another sort of nuance in the home automation smart home side is you've got the BMS side, again, similar to what we talked about, and you've got the AV side as well. So I think traditionally, certainly in the States and the UK, it's been more like when you talk about smart home and home automation, it's more people think of like AV, audio visual, so
Yes.
you know what I mean? There's more, it's more around sort of media systems, cinema rooms, having speakers in multiple rooms, that kind of thing. Maybe like an intercom system, and then you maybe tag some like CCTV into that. So that's another thing that's important to sort of distinguish. You've got like the AV side, and then you've got the BMS side, which is maybe more around the heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Sorry, I've gone off on one, Leah. bring me back to your original question.
No, no worries, no worries. I find it all extremely fascinating. I started off my career as an apprentice electrician, and that's how I was exposed to building automation. And I absolutely fell in love with building automation. Now, I don't think people really realize what we're giving to the community with building automation. Can you talk about the benefit of it? What are we really doing there?
um, yeah, so and I think so. Just can you just hold that question and come back to it, because I'll lose that, because there's a point that kind of feeds into that that I missed, which I wanted to mention, and that is the skill set of electrical controls, right? So this skill set, electrical controls, which really, it doesn't really underpin the AV part of home automation or smart home that we talked about, but
Yes.
electrical controls, that's core skill set. It underpins the commercial side, the building management, the building automation, and also home automation when you're using things like controllers like PLCs, that
Yes.
systems like locks on use, KNX use, not so much Control 4 and Savant. They're more sort of computer process based, but things that use PLCs or systems that use PLCs, yeah, so the commercial space, some systems in home automation, but also you've got the industrial sector, which is, and I know it's kind of moving away from building automation, but I it's just such an important skill set to have, I think, and gives you so much opportunity and flexibility across all these amazing control and automation industries, whether it's commercial, whether it's home, whether it's industrial. Yeah, I just think that is a skill set for anyone to build up who's looking to get into the industry, is such a valuable skill set to have, because you can use it anywhere. And I've done that. I started in home automation. I then went into industrial, and now I'm sort of focusing more in BMS or building automation systems. So yeah, sorry, just had to get that one in there, because I think that's just so important.
Absolutely. So, regarding building automation, what makes it such a benefit to our society? Why why is this valuable? What does building automation do for us as a civilization or community?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing for me, and this is what I think's gonna create a lot of opportunity for people, and save a lot of people and businesses money, is the fact that obviously the big energy crisis and costs of energy going up, certainly more recently, is it, if it's intelligent, if you're heating, specifically your heating, ventilation, air conditioning, all things that use a lot of power, is intelligently managed based on demand, based on how you use that building. I mean, it goes into the industrial sector as well. So rather than using like three-phase direct online starter motors that are either on or off, using things like variable frequency drives that you can modulate the speed to what's needed in terms of the demand, like you can just save businesses so much money, by just reduce, if you just reduce like a business's energy consumption by, let's just say, 5%, and they got, I don't know, just like £100,000 of energy every year, you're saving businesses a lot of money. And I think it's a much easier sell as well, certainly for newer people getting into the industry. Like if you can demonstrate you can save a business money, by reducing their carbon footprint and energy bill, then it's almost a no-brainer, isn't it, for a business? And that's another thing, like net zero, carbon neutral, bringing renewables into it as well. So that's another dynamic, bringing renewables into all of this. It's, yeah. And So I think that's one part of it is the money that you're going to save people. Um, that's the biggest one for me because I think that's the key thing to approach businesses with. I think with the smart home market, it's a little bit trickier. Certainly like around the mid-tier stuff, like higher end and luxury, it's almost a necessity because like if you've got a massive building, like a great example that I always use, whether it's a big domestic residential property or a commercial building, like when the last person leaves the office or something in the evening, or you're leaving the house to go out, you can just do like a triple tap on a switch, and that switches all the lights off, switches all the audio off. It stops any like extended heating schedules. It arms a burglar alarm. So it's just so convenient and easy, certainly with bigger properties. Slightly difficult, slightly harder sell, or yeah, it's harder sell, I suppose, if it's like a medium-sized property. But still, it's. I mean, I live with it, and I couldn't not live with it now. Um,
Yes.
it's just yeah, convenience and comfort, and we just like things that are easy.
Well, I also think the efficiency and, like you said, energy saving, we have a responsibility to do things in a way where we're not just bulldozing through all of our energy supply on this earth. So you're
Well,
stepping into that world, right, of
yeah,
responsibility and efficiency with
and
building.
governments. Sorry to cut you off. And governments are incentivizing this.
Yes.
They like for schools, for example, in the
Yeah.
UK. There's
Yes, here
big
too.
pots of money. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Again, when
100%.
governments are incentivizing things, that's like me as a business. If I know that, that's I'm going to go and target schools because I know that they're going to be more willing, or they're encouraged to spend money. They got given money to spend on these exact things, these solutions that we provide.
Yes. Yes. I like to think of building automation as like the human body, right? So your building is like a human body, and all these little devices are speaking to one another, and that's how the building best functions.
Mhm.
So when you're in this industry, there's different facets of it too. Like I know with your background, you're incredible. You're the guru of building automation, okay? And not only are you the guru, you have something that others don't. And it's the courses that you teach, the information you give. Not every one of us can be a teacher or educator. It takes certain qualities, it takes certain abilities. And you're just very good at breaking things down in a way that makes it comprehensible, that makes it easy to apply when you're coming from a place of maybe beginner. You're not as, like what you said, PLC. Someone
Mm.
might not have a fucking clue what PLC is, okay? So, program logic computer. So, that being said, you have to be able to bring this down to a level that somebody who's walking in who's interested can obtain, because it can be overwhelming. I mean, we know the language, the lingo, but many who first start don't. And not only that, you're marrying electronics, mechanical, electrical. There's so many different aspects. The programming, it's incredible. It's incredible. You're never going to get bored. There's always something
No,
to learn.
that's it. That's what hooked me into it. I get bored really, really easy. Um, and this industry does not bore me. And because I mentioned earlier, there's so many, or you've just mentioned, there's mechanical, electronics, electrical, there's like heating, there's lighting, there's networking, there's the industrial sector, the commercial sector, the home. Like it's you can't learn all of it. You can't be an expert in all of these areas. So if you enjoy learning and you get bored quickly, this is the industry for you.
Yes, definitely. And I want you to talk about some of the courses that you offer. What's available to people who are like, I really want to do this? Because this is the other thing. If you want to go to school for building automation, Personally, I wouldn't recommend that. Why? Because a lot of universities and schoolings, at least in the US here, don't have the curriculum and experience that you're really going to get when you're immersed in the field. Your
Mm.
courses are based off of what you're really going to be doing, what you really need to know to excel in that environment. And the fact that we have access to it, you should utilize it. So, also going to college, we're talking six figures. Your courses, you're not going to be in six figures worth of debt. So, there's the benefit there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just putting or finalizing everything like with these courses, so they're not all live yet, but perhaps by the time this airs that they will. So I've literally just been scripting some videos to sort of talk about, you know, the different courses that are available. I think what you said about like university and like and the fact that it's not real world stuff, like
Yeah.
it's all very well going to university and getting a university degree and say a bachelor's in electrical engineering. Great, you know, fair play. That's a tough thing to do. I couldn't do that. That's not, it's not for me. But I think you've got to think about whether it's actually going to help you get a position, or whether investing, say, 4 years of your life, 40K in tuition fees, um, you know, for just something on a piece of paper, is that worth the investment, and is that worth more than just trying to get some sort of core knowledge, understanding, and skills, and then just getting into the industry as quickly as you can? And if that means starting on a low trainee's wage, just so you can get that hands-on experience, um, you know, you got to weigh that up basically. And all the people that I know, actually I wouldn't say all of them, but let's say 9 out of 10 people that I know in the industry, and people running successful businesses, to be fair, most of them are all ex-electricians, you know.
Mm, yes.
None of them are university
Yes.
degree qualified. So anyway, I just think don't feel like you need to have that to do well in this industry. That's the first thing. In terms of like the path that I recommend people take, and this is kind of what the courses that I'm just finishing off do, is it's pretty simple really. Firstly, schematics. So, we're talking about, like, all of this is built on understanding electrical controls, like that as a
Yes.
core skill set, because
Yes.
that's going to give you the most opportunity in all of these industries, in the commercial sector, industrial, and home. So that's the skill set that you want, electrical controls, and that will enable you to either go and be an electrical controls engineer if you want to be, you know, a full-time employee, or that's going to give you, because it's quite a broad skill set, electrical controls, like it, and depending on where you're at. But for me, for example, when I was an electrical controls engineer, I was actually quite fortunate. It was a very small business, but that I was able to do everything within the project. So basically, from taking a spec, or even partly creating a spec, designing a system, documenting the system, building the system and control panel, testing it, programming it, like the PLC, and then going on to site and commissioning it and handing it over. So this is kind of like the skill set that an electrical controls engineer can have. They can basically manage, deliver the whole project. So as a business owner as well, especially if you're a solo one-man band, like, this is a skill set that's going to enable you to deliver full-on automation projects, doesn't matter what size it is, on your own. Obviously, you might have people contracted in. You know, if you've got loads of panels to build, or you've got big installs, you'll obviously contract people in, but you don't have to worry about not knowing any piece of the puzzle. That skill set will give it to you. And it's not learned overnight. You know,
No,
it
nothing
does,
is.
of course, it takes some time, and you've got to dedicate yourself to it. But yeah, basically, the step-by-step path that I recommend people take, and this is just through my own experience, learning the hard way. Some earlier students as well have sort of given me some feedback, and they think that this is the best way to go about it. If you don't necessarily have the hands-on opportunity to work on systems sort of day in, day out, but what I recommend is first build a solid foundation, and that's in electrical schematics. That's the first thing. And how I recommend people do that, and this is what I did, is get schematics of systems. So that's the first thing. Hopefully you can get your hands on some schematics of the system, and then get some photographs of the control panel. And this is what I did when I was learning. So what I do is, if I was on site, like doing a breakdown for something else, like we were doing a lot of industrial ventilation, if there was a BMS panel on site, as long as I could get into it without switching it off, which I learned a little sneaky method to bypass the switch to get into it. So if I could get into it, I'd take, whether you should do this or not, I don't know, but you know, when you want to learn, you do what you need to do.
Right.
So I just flick through all the drawings, take photos with my smartphone of all the drawings, all the pages on the drawings, take as many photos of the panel, and then obviously do what I was there to do with the other work that I was there, but then go back home and in my own time, without the pressures of working on site, I'd work through the drawings, and like you'd get to a component on the drawing and it will be labeled. You then reference that label to the photo you've got of the panel, and just over time I was just able to build up a picture in my head of basically how that control system is put together. So that's kind of what I do in the first training that I recommend people do, is go through that with you. So that's the first thing, solid foundation in electrical schematics. Second thing is, if you look at a project chronologically, you've got like the design, the build, the testing, the programming, the commissioning.
Yes.
But for people learning that haven't really got that much previous experience, I think it's schematics first. That gives you like a conceptual bird's eye view of a system, and then you've also got like visuals, like photos to reference to. So you're building up this picture in your head. And then once you build that solid foundation, I then think it's best to then go through the build process of a control system, of a control panel. So because like when you get on site and you open up a panel and you're like, fucking hell, like that looks complicated.
Yes. Yes.
And especially, I'm sure you've seen some of them, like some of the states you see some panels where they're just like, it's a rat's nest.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yes.
you just want to shut the door and run away.
Yes, absolutely.
It's horrible. And like half the time they don't have any documentation or drawings either.
No, no.
And like if you're sent to site expected to fix that as well, I've been there as well, and this was before I understood control systems, and it's horrible. I just very stressful, huge amounts of
Very.
anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's removing that illusion that, I mean, it does look like, don't get me wrong, it is, when it's a rat's nest and it's all the trunking's off and the cables are popping out all over the place, yeah, that's pretty bad. But most of the time, you know, if you're around panels that haven't been butchered over like the space of like 10 years or so, they're not normally that bad. But really the next stage is like going through the process and seeing that what they're like from like a blank canvas, and then just the step by step approach of how they're built. And I think that removes a lot of that anxiety to actually it's not that complicated. It's just lots of components, and then, you know, how are those components wired together and how do they relate to each other and interact, and the relationship between this component and this component. So that's sort of the next bit, understanding how to build the system. Following that, we then want to sort of, now we've built the system, and whenever you build a control system, there's always going to be issues with it. Like I'll speak for myself here, maybe other people are better than me, but if you're building a panel over the space of 2 weeks, you just can't help but get distracted, especially when you're doing some tasks over and over again, like
Yes.
cutting cables to the right length, like you drift, and like you might wire it into the wrong point of the panel. So inevitably you're going to have issues when you finish it and you come to test it. So that's a whole thing within itself. Going through the right testing procedure, um, in the right order, and then actually testing the functionality and like almost mimicking the systems that you'd have out in the field. Like say you've got pumps or valves or gas detection systems, you want to kind of mimic those out in the field. Let's say if you're testing in the workshop, and then just making sure that the panel or system is reacting as it should do when it's out in the field. So you've got to work through all of that, and there's always issues, and then it's sort of working out, oh, what's going on here? How do I break this down? How do I fault find this? So that's the next thing: testing, fault finding, pre-commissioning. So at this point, you've got good understanding of schematics, like a holistic bird's eye understanding of the system. You've actually been through building the system. You know how to test the system and how a system should behave and how to fault find it if it doesn't. So that's like a really good collection, a good understanding of all of that as a collective then. And then I think then it makes sense to come back around to the design, because you've got that
Yes.
whole understanding then, and then it just makes the designing from scratch all the way through to the end. I just think you've got that visual understanding, that hands-on understanding. It just makes that design process and documentation far easier to comprehend.
Yes, yeah. I completely agree with you, as I started my building automation career with ladder diagrams, building panels from the ground up.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I really think that is the right path for the highest success rate, to really know what you're doing, how things connect, how they talk to one another. Now, I love your YouTubes. I love your community. I strongly recommend that if you're interested in building automation as a career path, to definitely hop on. I will have all of your links in the show notes below. Now, let's talk about money. A good subject.
Yeah.
What kind of financials can you expect with this career?
Yeah. So we start as a like an employee, right? So where I went basically, I was earning like sort of pretty standard wage, 30K a year, 32K. Um, and then I was working for Loxon UK at the time, so I was around that sort of figure. And then I managed to convince a small industrial controls company to take me on kind of as a trainee. Um, and like as a fully qualified electrical controls engineer, you're looking at like 45K, 50K in the UK,
Yes.
pounds,
Yes.
um, which I think is a pretty good salary, to be fair,
Yes.
for someone who's employed. So yeah, I didn't go straight to that wage. I had to kind of prove myself, and I had to get some qualifications that I sort of talked about and negotiated with the business owner. But ultimately, I think I was there about a year and a half. So yeah, I think I started on 35 with them as a trainee, and then by the time I left, I was on 45. So that's pretty typical for an employee, like 45, 50. As a senior electrical controls engineer, you might get up to like, yeah, 55, 60 maybe. And obviously it depends on the size of the company.
Right.
Um, but then as a business owner, it's like, well, what you put in, you get out. So
Right.
so just example, like the last project that I did, it wasn't a massive home. It was like a um, medium-sized home. It was a Loxon project. The whole project value. So basically, my time doing the design, the panel build, the testing, the programming, and all the hardware in the panel, and like light fitting, switches, etc. That was like 50K. And if I remember correctly, I think like the hardware was about 30K. So 20K was basically what I took from that for my time and profit. Um,
Oh, not bad at all.
so so
Not
it's
very good.
it's pretty good. Obviously you've got to. It takes some time to get to a point where you can get that in consistently, and like certainly in the smart home market, like you've got to sell, you've got to
Mhm.
market, you've got to brand yourself. Like you cannot expect people to just give you work, and I think that's the problem with a lot of electricians that I've seen is they think like an electrician, you're more of as an electrician, it's a necessity. Like
Oh,
people will
yes.
Google you.
Yes.
Electricians are needed every day.
Right.
Smart homes aren't. So you really need to go out and market and sell yourself to be successful, I think, in the smart home space. Um, but if you're smart, you want to get in with the right people, and the right people are people like specifiers, so architects, developers, M&E designers, main contractors, interior designers, lighting designers, all of these people that can basically get you in with their client. And then if you do a good job for them, do good work, you're reliable and all of that, then they're the people that will give you repeat business. So rather than focus on building a relationship just like with a one-off end client building a smart home, I'll be focusing on building a relationship with one of those specifiers. So they're going to give you repeat work. That's how the successful people do it in the industry.
Very excellent advice. Very clever. Very clever. I wouldn't not initially think of that. Definitely, as an electrician, your instinct is, oh, they need me because who doesn't need
Yeah.
electrical? So that is a great way to look at it to help people assess how to move forward in the industry. In the
Yeah.
US, our starting point for building automation, this is why I'm pushing this as a career path so strongly for those that are interested. Your starting salary is 25 an hour. They're so desperate for people in this industry, you really have a leg up. I would go as far to say that if someone were to learn from your courses, get involved in what you have accessible, they could easily step into a job just by understanding the schematics, just by that, because they're so
100%.
desperate for people to know what the hell they're doing. And then easily, as you master your craft, you could move into six figures. And then, like you said, own your own business. You, sky's the limit with that. It just depends on how you organize it.
Yeah, I just think electricians are the best people as well to take up this new trade emerging industry.
Yes,
Like Sparks have got a great understanding already, and it's just a matter of building a little bit more on top of that. And they're the obvious choice to grow this industry.
I agree with you. And I push it because things are changing electrically. And so you need to be privy of those changes that are approaching. Now, I'm running out of time because I'm having too much fun. But Chris, what is the number one advice you would give to somebody? I mean, you gave the path, you gave the plan, you helped them understand, even the sales aspect, how to grow to that point in the mindset that you need to take on regarding this career. What's a tool that you think that they need to carry with them throughout this career path that's really going to get them to success? If you had to, kind of narrow it down to the best of your ability.
A specific tool, I'm not sure about a specific tool, but the mindset for sure is just know that it's not a get rich quick thing. Like, and there is a lot to learn, and you are going to have to learn to sell yourself, sell the product, sell the service. But I truly believe this in my bones. If you genuinely want to make this a success and you're willing to put in the work, like there's no reason whatsoever why you wouldn't make it. Like
Yes.
so just keep learning um and be patient. I think that's a key thing. Is just be patient. Learning something new every day, even if it's just a little thing, they just stack and stack and stack. And then, in a year, 2 years time, you will be somewhere.
I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.